I want to say something. I told this story last night, and I want to tell it again for those who weren't here last night for the social event. I'm not a big fan of Southwest Airlines, and I've been making this positive confession about my faith in the Word. Lord, one of these days you're going to give me a private plane, Not a twin engine. I'm not ready to fly a single engine, right? Twin engine. I don't need a Lear. I don't need a Gulfstream. Just get me away from all this strip search at the airport and all that. And the Lord has made a way. He's introduced me to a couple of pilots, and we're going to actually talk about how much would it cost to. The Lord's just good like that. But so I'm on Southwest Airlines yesterday, and leaving from Houston, and plane wasn't full. And the last person to get on the plane was an Army corporal. I can't remember his last name. Let's just say for the sake of generalities, let's just call him Corporal Smith. I forgot what his name was. He gets on, he's rushing, he sits behind me. I just give him a wave while he comes on. Most astounding thing happened when we landed in Dallas. Flight attendant comes on the PA. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to recognize Corporal Smith back there in the back." She says he's about to deploy wherever he was going and everything. And we just want to say thank you, Corporal Smith, for serving our country. And she just gave him all these laudables and just complimented him and just really just inundated him with praise for putting on the uniform and serving for our country. And then she said, "Now what we're going to do to honor Corporal Smith and all the men and women who serve in the military, we're going to sit in our seats and we're going to let Corporal Smith disembark first, leave the plane first." And so as soon as the captain turns his seatbelt signs off, Corporal Smith, with all this pressure on him, rushes to get his bags, his backpack and everything, and he goes out, and every one of these passengers on the plane gives this guy an ovation. And so when you see what we did today, I'm like, well, Southwest ain't that bad. And when you see what we honor our veterans, there's something happening to our country where the recognition of those who have put the uniform on and have signed their name on the dotted line that says, "I will give up my life," like Darla says, or like, Smilo says, Minio says, "Hey, for me to stand up here and be able to do what we're doing today, I never put on the uniform. And the only reason I'm able to do what I'm doing today is for the veterans that are in here and the Corporal Smiths. And for those of us who haven't put on our uniforms, haven't put on the uniform of the nation, you got a uniform on today. It's time to pay back some of these men and women did for us in World War I and II, and Korea and Vietnam, Iraqi freedom, Desert Storm, and the innumerous numbers of wars that some of our siblings have died for us to have. It's time to get to work. We got a uniform on today. It's time to pay them back. All right, the first part of our boot camp today is for you to get briefed why you have to do the work that we're going to start doing here very soon, once we have our first thaw. The work that we're going to have to do is going to have to be consistent. This is a long-term objective, long-term objective. This is not going to be something that we do on a short-term basis and then, hey, you go back to, baking cookies, soccer mom, and, restoring the old Corvette. This has to be a long-term objective. You're going to have to dedicate yourself to see the political landscape of Kansas City on both sides of the border change, long-term. So let's begin looking at why this is so imperative. You're looking, oh, great, dude. All right. Now, what we're going to have to do is make some comparisons, see if we can recognize a trend happening. Let's focus on Missouri and Kansas first. Let's look at the presidential races of 04 versus 08, and we're going to move fast. All right, here we go. In 04, throughout Missouri, the Democrats only won 3 counties. In 08, as you see, Democrats won 8 counties, almost a tripling of their victories from 04 to 08 in one presidential cycle. 04 to 08 in Kansas, a tripling. You only had one county that was won in 04. Which county is that? Okay, and now in 08 you had 3, right? So you had Wyandotte, then there's Johnson underneath, and what's the one over to the left?
Douglas.
Douglas, you got it. All right. State Senate districts, Jackson County, Missouri, that's on the other side of the border. 3 Democrats, 1 Republican. Next. State House of Representatives, only 1 Republican state rep district, state House Representative district throughout Jackson County. Next. Wyandotte County, straight blue. No Republican representation, no conservative representation at all. You know what? You know what I want to do, Jason? Let's back up a little bit. Let's go back to that Missouri map, that Missouri comparison. I want to show something here. See, look at this, y'all. Which county is that?
Jackson.
Which one is that?
St. Louis.
St. Louis, St. Louis proper, right? St. Louis the city and St. Louis the county.
Right.
Okay, and then what you see here is they're coming, what the Democrats are doing is they are focusing, what's that, I-70 coming through here is what they're focusing on. Right? And it's the same thing in Wyandotte. You see, I heard a Republican strategist back in the summertime at the Young Republican State Convention. I was the keynote speaker there. And he presented a strategy that I thought was very dangerous. His idea was, well, what we want to do is we want to push the Democrats into the urban areas. That's what he said. What we want to do is we want to control all of this, and our idea is we want to keep the Democrats confined in the urban areas. I'm like, dude, what are you thinking? They already control the urban areas. And see, the problem is, and I'll give you some numbers of this later, the majority of your states, this is where the majority of your population is. What he's advocating is a strategy that hasn't boded well for the GOP for decades. Ignore the inner cities, ignore the urban areas, let's just concentrate on the flyover areas. And folks, that's not the way the nation is anymore. For the first time in the nation's history, the majority of the population of the country lives in urban, suburban areas. So if you start ceding that territory, you're ceding liberty, you're ceding elections. What you have to begin to do is concentrate on urban and suburban areas. Suburban areas where, as GOPers, we lost in 04. Okay, and I want to refer you guys, I'm going to keep referring to Texas back and forth because of its importance and because Texas is a microcosm of where the nation is going. In Texas, 70% of our population is in urban, suburban, metropolitan areas. 70%. And where are we the strongest? In the rural areas. The flyover country. And that's the way it is in the nation. Where are the conservatives the strongest? In these flyover states. Wyoming, Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, 3 electoral college votes. And where are the liberals the strongest? Big, populous states. And so what does Missouri and Kansas have to do? You can't sit here in Kansas and say, oh, well, we've only got 3 counties that are blue. No, they all need to be red, all of them. We don't want no blue anywhere. Does anybody agree with me?
Yeah.
Now, I like blue. I mean, I like blue. Blue looks good on me, but my heart is red. Okay, now let's look at some margins of victory. Once again, what we're doing is establishing the trend. Mr. Cleaver and Mr. Moore, look at these numbers here. See? Look at this. 04, 13%. 06, 32%. 08, 28%. I heard Jacob and Donna talk about their ability to reduce that margin of victory in 08 during the Obama tsunami. And they're right about that. That is quite an accomplishment. You know, Mr. Moore, 12, 31, 16.8. See, these numbers, if you're going to make sure, if you're going to get conservative representation up into Washington, these double-digit numbers, you're going to have to focus and you're going to have to work hard to change that. That's what you're here to do today, to learn how to do that.